So today I'm so very excited to have an opportunity to speak with Dr. Keith McCormick. He has just written a new book called Great Bones, Taking Control of Your Osteoporosis. Dr. McCormick is a chiropractic physician, an Olympic athlete, and a survivor of 12 osteoporosis-related fractures. He continues to push himself in pursuit of what he loves to do. His new book, Great Bones, provides a comprehensive and deep dive into understanding the pathophysiology behind bone loss, the role of nutrition, and much more in regards to bone health. So, Dr. McCormick, I'm so excited that you could join me, and I know you've had a very busy interview schedule. When you wrote this book, may I ask, who was your intended audience?
I wanted it to be for both the layperson and for physicians. And that's why it's a little, in depth. It's a little difficult for some people sometimes. But I also know that there's a lot of books out there in the market that don't address the complexity of osteoporosis. And so I wanted not only people to know how complex it was, and this isn't just about taking vitamin D and calcium, but there's more to it than that. But I wanted it to be addressed to physicians also, because many of them, unfortunately, don't know enough about osteoporosis. And not only do they know, the ins and outs of it, but I don't think they take it as seriously as they should. And the reason why is because they don't know the magnitude. They don't know how common this is and how devastating it can be to people. So I wanted to get across those points.
Well, I think you've managed to get those points across, so I commend you on it. And I do hope, I know it's going to be overwhelming for physicians as well, because they don't have a strong background in nutrition. And you dive really deep in the nutrition component. You dive really deep in just on the cellular level, just linking everything together. So let's just say your intended audience of physicians, how would you like them to use the book? And then how would you like the individuals with osteoporosis that are trying to help themselves use your book?
Well, if you're a physician, you're probably going to think about prescribing a medication. And if you don't know the basic, the basic underlying function of bones, how the physiology of bones and the pathophysiology, what causes bone loss, then it's really hard to pick the right medication for that particular person. Because there's only about 10 medications, but there is always one that will give the optimal results. And unless you've done the right background legwork as far as lab tests, listening to the patients, seeing what their background is, seeing where they are currently in their physiology and their health, and looking at the bone densities, not just the current bone density, but past bone densities. Looking at all that, then you can make a better decision on what and how best to help this person. And so for the physician, it's important for them to know, a deeper dive into it. For the layperson, unfortunately, they don't. I'm not asking them to understand it all, but if they can get at least familiar with some of the terminology, and then they can have an honest conversation with their physician. And the more everybody knows, the better chance we have of a good outcome. And sometimes a physician will tell a patient, "Oh, here's a bisphosphonate," and I make it easy on things like that when we're talking about medications, because if you read the book, even if you don't understand everything, you're a layperson, and you realize that you have a negative 4.2 and your CTX is really high, you're losing bone.
The CTX, just so listeners, the blood test is for bone markers. Yeah. That's measuring.
It's bone resorption. It's measuring osteoclastic activity. Right. Sorry. Unless you know, it's just simple little things like that. And let's say then their hips the person's hips are pretty degraded. Well, a bisphosphonate clearly wouldn't be the first choice. And that's, by the time you read the book, you'll easily know that. just three things: severe bone loss, a high CTX, high bone turnover marker, and hips that aren't very good. A bisphosphonate is not the right way to go. And many patients come in and say, oh yeah, my doctor prescribed bisphosphonate. So the doctors will now, after reading the book, know why that isn't optimal. And the patients will also then be able to check and make sure, hey, Dr. Smith, I don't think that's the way to go. And a patient needs to realize that they are the boss. This is their health, and their doctor should be working with them and not telling them what to do, but offering suggestions of what to do. And then the patient makes the decision of their health care.
I wanted you to just say, if you only had time to say, what are the three most important things that you wanted your audience to get out of your book? What would be those three things, starting with?
Information, like the true information of how to approach bone health, with laboratory tests and DEXA examinations, how to look at them and kind of know if they're right or wrong or whatever. So real nitty-gritty information on that kind of stuff. And also nutrition. Number 2, inspiration. And number 3, hope. Because the first part, the nitty-gritty information stuff, doesn't do you any good if I can't inspire the reader to go for this. And if they're not inspired, they're not going to have any hope. So I'm hoping that at the end, they do realize that everybody can improve. And this isn't, a patient today, and she was very upset, and because her bone loss, and she just kept saying to me over and over again, my hope was, is it not going to, can I not get better? Am I just going to fall apart? And I just kept, encouraging that, no, we're going to do something about this. And so those are the 3 things.
Well, I want to thank you for writing your book and providing people with information, inspiration, and hope. So thank you so very much.